Yo, 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 welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris Felling and I am your host, and I am so thrilled, so excited to introduce to you Matt, the Aussie Flipper. And this episode is an exciting episode just because, well, Matt and I, we're good mates and we've been doing a lot of the same stuff over the last, well, he's been doing it for 9 months, but I've been doing it for the last 3 months. And we've grown to, have a great friendship, and I'm excited to be able to bring him on to talk about just the amazing things he is doing. Well, you see, Matt is all about the hustle, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's a full-time online reseller and basically, selling things online, whether it's eBay, Facebook Marketplace, and other places as well, I'm sure, wherever he can get his hands. And what I love about Matt is he goes in with execution and is a big action taker. And his previous role or previous gig that he was doing, he was a young gun sales executive in the AFL industry or the sports industry. And he's come from that, and with everything that happened last year with COVID, the big 2020, he basically had to take some things into his own hands and just double down on doing what he can do best, and that's make sales. And he's been a bit of a flipper over the years, hence the name the Aussie Flipper. And now he's doubling down in that area of where he's able to basically create an income online, not just via selling online, but also with the YouTube, helping share his growth, share his journey, and help others be able to do the same thing as well. It's been a great honor to be able to have this conversation with him, get him on here and, talk about his mindset, the way he approaches things and the way he executes. I think this is something that we can all learn from, whether you're doing an online business or whether you're just trying to level up or grow in any area within your life. So buckle up, get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee, cup of tea, however you like to listen to a podcast. We do have this on YouTube. We do have this on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts as well. So however you like to do it, get comfortable and sit back and enjoy the show. Let's get into it. All right, Matt, thank you for being here, Matt. Really do appreciate you jumping on board. And I mean, we've known each other for a while now, but it's so exciting to have you here on the podcast.
Oh, mate, it's awesome to be here. I'm loving what you're doing, and to be able to get onto your podcast and have a bit of a chat, I'm really looking forward to it, mate.
Thank you so much. Now I know so much about you, so it's going to be an interesting episode, I think. But let's just dive straight in about yourself, right? You're up in Brisbane, top of Australia for those that are international, and your background, it's the usual. It's the 9 to 5 kind of gig kind of stuff, but there's a lot more about you. You have a big background in sports and different hobbies and passions. So let's hear about you. Who are you? What are you about? What was your upbringing, your education, and all that jazz?
Yeah, I guess I've always been based actually on the Gold Coast, about an hour south of Brisbane. So, or 45 minutes on the highway. It's not too bad. But born and raised there. And look, it's a really nice beachside town. But eventually, as life goes on, you finish your studies, you tend to see most people around the area go elsewhere and they look for other opportunities. And that's certainly been the case with me. I've spent a bit of time really all over the world. I got to go overseas and spend 2 years in Canada. And then I've done some interstate sort of setups as well. I spent 3 years in Perth, a couple of years in your part of the world in Melbourne. And now I'm back here on the Gold Coast. And really for me, it's always been, a real passion for sport. As you touched on, I've been in the AFL industry, our local or national football league over here. And I've done that for the last 10 years in a sales executive role. I spent some time overseas in Canada for a soccer club. And really for me, it's sort of where it ties in well with this podcast is it's always been around my passions, just things that I'm just genuinely interested in. And football has been a big one of that. And a natural skill set for me has always been sales. So I've been able to sort of match the two up from a career sense and sort of just mix the two of sales and sport. But then obviously the coronavirus hit last year, and that kind of made me think a little bit, like it made everybody have to think a little bit. So that's where this reselling game that I'm in at the moment, it's brought me back home to the Gold Coast. Not as many opportunities in the sporting industry here on the Gold Coast, but it's allowed me to kind of pivot 180 into something completely brand new. So I've been doing this reselling gig for about 9 months now, and I was doing it really casually part-time for a little while, but not really even at a part-time sense for too long before I dived into this full-time setup that I'm in now. And I'm really trying to scale a business, grow a business, document that entire journey with the YouTube channel as well. which I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit later. But a lot of work at the moment, but it's really nice to just actually give something else a go compared to what I've always done for the last few years. So nice to be back on the Gold Coast. It's a pretty good part of the world.
Yeah, thanks for that big summary. That's really good, and there's so much in there that we can touch on. And yeah, I agree. I mean, Gold Coast is it's the sunny side of Australia. Here in Melbourne, it's one day it's a bit of sunshine, and the next day it's just all cold and wet and wild. So
I know it well. I know it well.
So it's a bit crazy. So look, you've mentioned a lot there, and one thing I just want to, I mean, look, it sounds amazing. You've got some great experience. You've traveled around, so you've seen different parts of the world and how they operate in terms of different industries, but predominantly the sporting industry. And one thing I wanted to kind of just touch on for the audience is, so in terms of education, what did you study? Did you go to uni, or what did you do?
Yeah, I did a business degree here on the Gold Coast. So I always wanted, I actually very early days wanted to work in physiotherapy. And I wanted to get into the sort of the sports science field of elite sport. And then very quickly I knew that I wasn't very good at the science side of it. So I was quickly out of the exercise science degree that I initially signed up for. And I pivoted into a business degree in sports management. So I thought I could come in from the administration side of things. So really from the get-go for me, there was a real deliberate approach to kind of attack what I got to do for the last 10 years. I didn't sort of just fall into it. I really wanted to go for it. And I did my business degree, got my qualifications, and got a job with the Gold Coast Suns in the AFL. So that's kind of how it all started. High school was obviously just here on the Gold Coast. And then fortunately, I didn't have to travel. I got to go to my local university for a few years, and all the travel that I spoke of previously, that kind of came into it after a couple of years in the sporting industry. It allowed me to get other jobs, elsewhere.
Okay, no, that's really good, and I think you've said something really really important there, which you weren't you had this intent, or you had this goal or dream of doing physiotherapy, and that didn't pan out, but you were able to take a different angle and pivot and still get into the passion or the industry that you're passionate about, and just doing it from a different means. So I think that's a really important takeaway early on into this episode, because a lot of the time we think, oh, if I can't do that, I can't even get into that industry, when there's so many ways you can get into industries or the things that you're passionate about, and just using different skills, because a lot of the time all these industries require all those weird and wonderful skills. So now that's good to hear. All right. I mean, that's great, man. So you touched on, yep, a year ago, well, 2020, obviously the big COVID happened, and I think a lot of us have learned so much from that, and we've had to take a bit of a reality check. So I guess in a nutshell, what did, before COVID hit, what did life look like in terms of a day in a life? You were doing the 9 to 5, or were you flying around a lot, or what did life look like a year ago compared to now?
Yeah, very much the standard 9 to 5 that I think a lot of people experience with a normal job, I suppose. But I was obviously in the sporting industry, so I did have a bit of weekend work. I had to work games, and games were naturally on a Saturday or a Sunday. So I was often working a 6-day work week. And the way that the salaries were sort of structured, you were kind of just expected to do those extra hours, and it was sort of a part of the salary that you would earn. So there was no overtime rates or anything like that. So look, it was pretty taxing, no doubt about it. But that's really all I ever knew. The first job that I ever had out of university was 6 days a week, and you'd work whenever there was a home game. So I was very used to doing a lot of hours, and it didn't really feel like work then, because like I said, it was something that I wanted to be in. It was a real passion of mine. So to have to do a 50 to 60 to 70 hour work week didn't feel like too much of a stress. But yeah, I mean, Monday to Friday, it was your typical 9 to 5, the commute that you'd have to suffer through, and get home, make dinner, go to bed, and try and sneak in a gym or a run like yourself, in the morning or the nighttime. So that has completely changed, massively since I've started doing what I'm doing now. And that's been a really enjoyable part of this process, is to kind of just be my own boss, structure my own routines, and still get the most out of a day as possible. But a little bit different, I guess, to the normal 9 to 5 I've always been used to.
This is all very relatable, and it's I can resonate with that, and thank you for sharing. And I know it does come across, and probably for those that are listening, it is a bit of a cliche in some sense, like, yeah, the 9 to 5 and now doing your own routine. But I also know that yes, you are working your own routine now, and doing your own gig, but you are all go. You're hustle, hustle,
Yeah.
hustle, and it's probably you're actually probably doing more if I'm not if I'm not
No doubt.
mistaken.
No doubt. Yeah. And that's I think that's what you've got to expect. I think if you're going to try and give something a go for yourself, if you're going to try and build a business from the start, from the ground up, you've got to be expecting to work more than you were in a standard 9 to 5 job. I don't think anyone could get the job done otherwise. So I kind of always knew that it would be the case. And I'm probably a little bit extreme in a sense that I actually find it really hard to take a day off. I don't really have that in my routine at the moment, and it's definitely a negativity. I wouldn't be out there telling people, "Oh, you've got to work 7 days a week, 10 hours a day." You really should be trying to find time off, and I do try to document that struggle that I've got as well around trying to take time off, because your personal life is equally as important as your working life, and I probably haven't grasped that side of things in the 9 months that I've been doing this full time quite yet. But that's also part of working from home. Like everyone's now working from home, whether they have a job or whether they're doing something for themselves. Having your workplace in your own home, I actually find that really hard to disconnect. It's always here. Like there's always something to do, and I could always just chip away at something else. So that's been a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of hours, and it's also learning too. You know it yourself. You and I do the exact same thing. Like we're just permanently learning, and the learning process takes more time to just simply get around your head around what you actually have to do. And I think over time, once you actually learn the correct processes, maybe things will quicken up a little bit. But in those very early stages and trying to start something fresh for the first time, it's just a ton of work. But just I will quickly say, just like the sport that I was in, I never found that tough working those 60 to 70 hours because that was a passion. What I'm doing now is a passion. I absolutely love doing the YouTube. If I wanted to save 30 hours out of my work week, I'd probably just stop doing YouTube and then I'd just focus on the reselling. But I love making YouTube videos. So, it's give and take. They're my hours that I'm choosing to dedicate, because I think that just needs to be the case to get the job done. But there's a lot of hours in there. You've got to be sort of up for that if you want to give this sort of thing a go.
You've said it spot on, and it is a bit of a catch-22, or it becomes a bit of a slippery slope working from home or working for yourself, because there's that you do enjoy what you're doing and you want to keep doing it, but it also becomes a bit of, I wouldn't say that it's an unhealthy habit, but it's like an addiction in some sense, because you just want to keep grinding. You want to see that progress. You want to get to that next milestone or whatever. And it's always very encouraging when you do get that extra sale or you get that progress or you learn something new. But at the same time, you're actually exhausting yourself a lot. And even though it is a passion, you're not necessarily stressed, but you are burning, just your mental energy a lot quicker. And,
Yeah.
it sometimes takes, as you mentioned, a bit of a wake up call to realize, oh, pickles, I've been burning the candle too hard. And I think that comes with anything, but it's great that you touched on that early on. So thank you. And I mean, look, let's dive into, we've kind of beat around the bush around, what you're actually doing. So you've already spoken about that, you're doing the reselling full time. But let's jump into that a bit more. So you're known as the Aussie Flipper, online on YouTube and on the Instagram, and maybe just in a nutshell, just summarize for everyone, what you do, and for anyone that doesn't necessarily know what online reselling looks like. And then the question to follow that would be, why reselling?
Yeah, great. Yeah, awesome question. Look, so I guess to summarize online reseller, I basically am a full-time thrifter. I'm a full-time op shopper. And that in itself, talk about addiction, that is a real addiction. You know it better than anyone yourself.
Oh yeah.
I'll thrift probably maybe 3 to 4 times a week, sourcing items at a relatively low cost that I know has a really good upmarket price, which is the standard price of the item, on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or pretty much wherever I can sell it on the internet. The opportunities through these op shops to get really quality items at a low price in volume allows you over time of scaling it to be an actual full-time job. So really what I thought 9 months ago when I left my job due to COVID and the rest of it, I knew that there was an opportunity with reselling for it to be a business that could be my own and I could be my own boss. And if I could work really hard, it could be a full-time paycheck that allows me to just simply do that as a job. And I thought that would be awesome flexibility to be my own boss. So I dove into that 9 months ago with the sole purpose of just scaling it as fast as I could, buy as many items in the op shops, list them all onto eBay, list them all onto Facebook Marketplace, And then on top of that, while I'm learning that entire process of how it actually best works, to document that journey with 3 videos on a YouTube channel under the Aussie Flipper, have an Instagram page as well. So that's sort of exactly what it is from a sense of online reselling. But the reason as to why I got into it, it's something that I've always done, and I've always understood the concept. Actually, I flipped. My first sort of flip was actually a car. So quite a strange sort of first flip, but I was over in Perth and I needed some wheels, and I got myself a Ford Laser, and the Ford Laser only cost me about $3,500, a very cheap runaround. And within 12 months, I was a little bit more established in Perth, and I knew that I was going to be there for a little bit longer. And I sold that car to get another car, but I sold the car for $5,000. So it was just on the initial purchase, a really good buy. But I made about $1,000 after everything was said and done. And I've always thought like that. I've always known that, but I've never had the opportunity to just sit there for hours on end and try and, do it to earn any sort of significant amount of money. So when the footy stuff all fell through, I thought, righto, well, you've worked in sales your whole life. You enjoy the selling process. It'd be pretty cool to be your own boss and work for yourself. You've never done that before. If there was ever a time to give it a go, now would be the time to do it. And if it fails, who cares? You just give it a go, and you give it a go for 6 months to 12 months and see where the numbers are at. And if they're there or they're not there, you determine whether or not you keep going or find another job somewhere else. So I could have got into real estate. I looked at real estate. It was, again, a selling sort of aspect. It got me back on the Gold Coast, plenty of opportunities. A lot of people come into the Gold Coast for property. Booming market, could have made a heap of money. But I just thought, yep, real estate will be there down the line. That could be something that I do later on. But right now, and you've spoken about yourself taking a chance on you. Let's just take a chance on me and give this a go for myself, and just see if I can't make it work. And who cares if I can't, but at least I can just say that I've given it a go.
That's awesome. And I think, it's always important to understand our whys, and, why you started, and then to hear why you started the reselling. And I mean, everything you're saying and your background, it all makes sense because, you're naturally, it sounds like you're a natural born seller, right? In terms of that's what you like to do, but you are a people person as well. The way, the way that you present yourself as well. I think, it's that law of attraction. So people are more genuinely going to be interested in that talking point around, okay, when they're trying to sell you something, because they feel that comfort. They feel like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. So it comes across as that confidence. So I think this is, once again, another perfect example of, we all have these amazing skills and talents, but we can apply them in so many different ways. Now, coming from a title of sales executive, sounds very, up there, and I totally get that. But now you're doing exactly the same stuff, just in a whole different medium, and you're doing it for yourself, right? And that's super cool. It's totally awesome. And so you're 9 months in, and I mean, that kind of segues straight to the next area I want to really touch on, which is, what it's like starting a business or building a business from scratch. And I know that's a very, very broad question, but I mean, let's take it back. First month, you said that, you were kind of basically just getting out to the op shops or the thrift shops and just buying as much as you can, and then just getting it online. So what does it even feel like starting from nothing? What was it like starting in the first month or so? And, what were maybe some of the things which, I guess, surprised you, or was there no fear whatsoever? Were you kind of like, oh, this is all easy stuff? Or, let's talk about that a bit.
I probably went into it a little bit naive. I kind of went into it and I was like, this is pretty easy. Like, you're telling me I just need to go to the op shop, buy a couple of items, put it on the internet, and then it sells in a couple of days. And I do that for maybe 20 to 25 items, and there's $1,000. And there's my $50,000. All right, that's easy. I'll just go do that. And then I really sat back and looked at the numbers, and I looked at sell-through rate, and I looked at the work of the little things. And it's really hard to kind of talk. Anyone that hasn't been a reseller or done what we do, it's quite unique in a sense. It's, something that you can do part-time, just on weekends, maybe with a full-time job. That's what 90% of people do as a reseller. They just do it casually. So the workload of what you need to do for each task is quite small because you're not doing it at scale. But when you actually start to do it at volume and you have multiple sales come in on a daily basis, and remember, you are just a one-man band, there is a lot of work to do and a lot of time. Time is probably the biggest aspect. I value time over money every single day of the week. So it's how do I get more efficient with my time to still be able to get the job done as you're scaling, as you're growing, more sales are coming in, more time is taken up on medial tasks like postage or administration of your inventory items. And talking about growing your business, I think you're just simply constantly learning from the day and the minute that you start doing it. I'm not even trying to build a business that I've had experience in doing the task at hand, and now I'm trying to branch out and build my own business of that thing that I've already had prior experience in. I'm actually doing something that is new, really, for the very first time, and also trying to create a business out of it. So it's not even really been a side hobby. It's just been, right, you've got to learn the game and then also make it profitable. And you've got to do it as soon as you possibly can. At least I feel like that anyway, because I'm living at home with my parents and I'm 30 years of age, and I'd really like to just fend for myself and have enough money to be able to live my own life. As much as I love their support, they are incredible people. But I would just like to get it off the ground to the point where it is sustainable. And that's really what I try to document with the YouTube journey. I really try and document the highs and the lows of growing a business, and the tricky parts and the difficulties. And I don't really like to skip too much in the documentation. And I do that with my videos each week. But yeah, man, yeah. And you'll know it yourself. You're just constantly learning. There's so much to know, so much to do. And as you evolve, it just gets more and more requirement for you to commit to it, because there's just so much to get done. So that's why I think when you're starting a business too, you've really got to enjoy it, that whole passion side of thing. You've got to probably say 6 to 12 months, I'm going to probably have to give a few things away for a little bit, sacrifice a few things. That's just part of it. Even sacrifice the money, because you're probably not going to earn as much initially, but you've got to have your big future goals and plans in place to be able to sort of work through those tough early times while you're learning everything. But 9 months in, it's amazing how much I can sit back and say that I've learned. Even on a sourcing of inventory, when I walk into an op shop, I look at stuff that I used to buy that literally doesn't sell, that I was buying thinking that I could sell it. And that's the core of the business, is to source really good items. And back when I first started, I was not doing that very well. And already 9 months later, I'm picking better when I'm out in the op shops to make my money.
Touched on a lot there. So, and I think you've said it, summarized it really well in terms, you're not just building a business that you would know, but you're having to learn along the way. And I think that's a very key thing, because a lot of the time people looking from the outside, right? We see people's highlight reels, or we see people's businesses, or people's, their daily success or what they're doing, but we don't always see the blood, sweat, and tears behind it, right? And I can understand. I mean, even starting this podcast, it's like, how hard can it be, get on and just chat and, just talk to someone. But, there's
a lot of work.
There's a lot of work, just even when I had to do the first editing of the video, I was like, okay, I'm used to doing video edits, not audio edits. And it's slightly different. And then timing it with video. And obviously you learn as you go. And now doing it the third or fourth one and with a guest, it makes it a lot easier, because I've learned so much. The first one, it took me like 5 days to edit, because I realized I didn't do the audio correctly. And so I can totally appreciate that. And I think what you've also
said, you've got a lot on your plate. You've got YouTube, you've got your running, you've got 4 different concepts that you're putting through your channel. I don't know how you get it all done. Your efficiency with time is incredible.
There's I appreciate that. And it's the same thing. Like feeling exhausted, but the thing that keeps me going is that passion, which is what you also touched on. Is you've jumped into this business, there's a lot of hustle there, there's a lot of hard work, but because you are passionate about it, you do enjoy it, it makes it that little bit easier, right? And I think that's what separates.
I think it makes it massively easier. Like, if you aren't liking this, you're not doing 70 to 80 hours a week. And that's what I'm doing, but that's what anyone's doing. No one, especially when you're not earning the money and you're reaping the benefits. Like, to sit there and not earn a lot and look at your hourly rate at the end of the first couple of months, if you don't like what you're doing, or if you're not loving it, you're not going to sit through it for very long.
So can we ask on that then, do you know what your hourly rate is at the moment, 9 months in?
And I don't like to look at it. One, because I'm doing way too many hours, and I'm certainly not at a good hourly rate. I don't know what the hourly rate is. I'm pretty open with my financials on my channel. I know that some people aren't, but I'm a big advocate of, if I'm documenting my journey of building a business, the finances behind that is pretty important to document, I personally think, and I've got no issues talking about it. So I don't know, you'd have to do the maths. If we quickly did it now, you can edit out my time on my calculator, but it's $1,000, and I'm dividing that by, say, 70 hours worth of a working week. So $14.28 would be your number.
Yeah.
So you tell me, if you're not passionate about it, would you be doing 70 hours a week for $14 an hour? Probably not.
The reason why I ask is because, yes, I do look at it, but I don't live off it, right? Because it can be demoralizing. And when you look at it that way, you think,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem right. But I think the
Yeah.
difference is because, you working in your 9 to 5 previously, what were you on 6 figures at the time, probably?
Pretty much just on, yeah.
Yeah. So, you're obviously, let's say you're earning $30 an hour kind of thing. And now you're basically earning half it. But on a week-to-week basis, you feel like you're absolutely smashing. Oh, I've got another $1,000 coming, and it does. It feels like more. And I think the difference here is because you've made it, you've done it, you've put all the effort in, but there's this waiting where, because of that passion, you don't feel like you're stressed over it. You don't feel like you've had to like bust your guts, even though you have, but you come out on top. Whereas, when you were getting that nice salary package coming in, whether it's weekly or monthly or whatever, you're still like, oh crap, I've got to go back next week. It's that different
100%.
mentality. Yeah.
I feel like what I'm earning right now, $1,000 a week versus, I don't know what it was with 100K a year, but that difference in pay, I feel like it's the same because of the points that you literally just referenced then. Like I've literally, it's my work, it's my hours and my time that I've put into it. And when I do get to the point of 1,000, I'm pretty much at a point now where I think I could move out and I'd be able to survive on $1,000 a week. That was always the goal, and I'm now there, which is awesome. But that, to me, earning it, I would be comfortable earning that figure for the next 6 months and continually growing a YouTube channel with the revenue opportunities there. I just think that is just a very awesome thing and a huge achievement to be able to say you're doing what you want to do on your own time with your own hours. You could start at 5 in the morning if you want to. You can start at 10 in the morning if you want to. It's your time. Yes, there's a lot of hours there, but it's on your terms, and that's probably the best part about it. And you're being able to sustain a full-time living to sustain yourself in being able to move out of home and all the rest of it. So I absolutely love the journey. But talking about the pay rate, $14 an hour, I personally don't look at that because I'm growing and I'm scaling, and it's great to look at, okay, well, time versus money, but I think I almost block out all of that for a good 12 to 18 months, and I really just look at the incremental growth. All right, last week or the last month you're at that figure. Now look at the growth you've made there. I think that's more the journey, rather than the sort of the time versus money aspect. Because we're no longer with what we do in a job where you get paid an hourly rate. It's more of a lifestyle, which you touch on quite a lot. And, trading the lifestyle for the money that you earn and getting to do what we do is a pretty cool thing.
Correct. And I think, at this point in time, it makes it kind of diluted because the work that you're doing isn't necessarily in those hour blocks. I mean, because you're working around the clock. You could get a sale at 2 a.m. in the morning, not necessarily that you have to do anything, but you got that sale from putting up something that you listed 2 weeks ago, which was in a batch of an hours of work. So it kind of dilutes it. I guess when you think about it, you're actually almost working 24/7, but at the same time, if you're, let's say you're actually doing eBay work or actual listing work, you're probably only doing that a percentage of the day, because the rest of it you might be out, sourcing, you might be out, posting things and stuff. So depending on how you, I guess, pivot or present those numbers, it will come across different. Because so for me, if I worked it out in terms of the amount of profit I'm earning per, because I'm only really doing it part-time because I'm doing the podcast and I'm doing other things as well. I'm probably working 3 full days, right? 24 hours. And it works out that maybe I'm on around $12 to $13 an hour. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm thinking, oh, okay. When you say it that way, it's like, oh, it doesn't sound like that much. But to me, I was like, actually, I'm pretty happy with what's coming in. Obviously, I want to continue to scale, but I want to be hitting numbers like you, of course. But I think we've got to be careful not to be, it's like with the YouTube game. You can get so stuck on the numbers and what's not working when really everything's working fine. You're exactly where you need to be because it's just going to keep growing. So it's very important that, it's important, and you always harp on it, is, it's important to understand your numbers, but it's a different time of number, knowing, what's selling, what's not selling, where your profit margin is, and all those numbers. But the hourly rate doesn't necessarily apply, because this will start to turn into a bit of a passive income in a sort, because you're putting in work up front and you're not getting the return maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, but it just keeps tipping over. So there'll come up.
I think that's probably the biggest thing. It's the work that you're doing is actually propelling you to earn more money in the future. So if I'm putting 5 hours of my working week today into building a website, which is one thing that I've just done, that is going to be a money generator for me in 6, 12, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So while it might be a $14 an hour pay rate right now, it's actually leading to the generation of a larger income down the line. Same with YouTube videos, creating evergreen YouTube videos with YouTube AdSense that can be viewed in 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Those 20 hours that I put into 3 videos this week at my $14 an hour is going to earn me money for the rest of my life if people keep clicking on that video and watching it. So I think that's the difference when you step across from a salary on set time and hours versus an actual business of your own, where that work that you're putting in, all that hard yard hours that you're putting in at a very low pay rate, when you look at it on the hourly, is actually generating you quite a larger amount of money. And it's actually not $14 an hour. It's not 12 or 13 for the time that you're putting in. It's a whole lot more than that down the line. It's a bit like the share market. You put your money in now, your time in now, and it just compounds over time.
100%. That you've summed it up perfectly. That's really good. And anyone that's listening, when it comes to this kind of stuff, you've got to look at it for the long term and the end game and the long run, because we can invest time and we can become overwhelmed with not seeing the progress we're expecting, when it only might take that extra 6 months and all of everything's just changed and boom, and it's blowing up. And I know that because your numbers are absolutely smashing it at the moment. And I know you want to keep going, but what I'm saying is, you're 9 months in and you're smashing numbers that people, would be having to do education for 4 years to even get that as a graduate job kind of gig. And you've built this up in the last 9 months, and you're only, because I think at the moment you're averaging enough that would work out to be around $50,000 to $60,000 in revenue at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, as a paid salary. So right now with what I did last month, I'm tracking to be at around $100,000 in revenue over the course of a year. And when you take everything out of it, my paycheck, if there was one, it would be sort of with YouTube as well. I'm now sort of on a monthly basis earning the approximate of a $50,000 to $60,000 a year salary, which is my the whole journey and goal on this YouTube channel, is to document me getting to that figure from when I first started last July. So it's taken about 9 months, but I'm probably now there.
Dude, I mean, that's an epic and a huge pat on your back, because to step away from your own, working the 9 to 5 where you've got the comfort of a job, and to start from scratch and build something up. And yet, as you mentioned, there is the multiple sources of income there. You've got the YouTube and the reselling, but to say that you're on track to do 100 grand in revenue and you're 9 months in, and you're going to be able to take home a paycheck of 50 grand to your pocket. I mean, dude, kudos and well done. And folks, if you haven't checked out his channel, go check it out. And of course, all this is in the show notes. But this is the reason why I want to have these conversations, is because anyone can do it. You're still very young. As you said, you're 30, but there's people that we both know that are younger than both of us, and they're doing numbers, if not even higher than us. Like they're killing it. And there's others just getting started and they're still doing some amazing numbers, and they're just putting in very little time. So you can earn, not just saying you have to get into reselling. What I'm saying is, you put your mind to something with your passion and you go all in and invest that time, the return will come. It's crazy.
It will come. What I will say for anybody listening out there that wants to do what we're trying to do in the sense of giving something a go for ourselves, I really do think that the coronavirus last year, if I had it in any other world, in any other year, I would not be here right now talking to you being an online reseller. I would still be in football. And I think that a lot of people wanting to do this sort of thing, they have it in the back of their mind that they want to do it, but they never, ever pull the trigger on it and actually give it a go. And I was kind of forced into it with the coronavirus, where I didn't have the job. I wanted to be back on the Gold Coast, and I was kind of just sitting here going, okay, well, what's it going to be? Like you're kind of forced into giving it a go, where in a normal sense, in a normal world, I would not give it a go. I would just go to the fall of the comfort of doing my own thing with a salaried job and staying in football for as long as I can. I really thought that I'd be in football for the rest of my life. That was how I thought years ago. So what I do want to quickly mention on this is that it's the time aspect of, it will take longer than you think, and it will I really do think it's something that you should be doing as a side hustle for a really long time. I'm talking, I'm quite a unique scenario because I was kind of forced into it. I've moved in with my parents. I don't have any money that I need to be putting to bills or for rent. My parents have been incredible in the sense of letting me just really just kind of put any earnings that I have back into my business to be able to accelerate it faster. And I know that a lot of people out there don't get the privilege that I've had to be able to have that situation play out. So if you do want to do it, I think it's more so that marathon long game scenario of going, let's get into something that I want to do in 5 years time and chip away at it with my full-time job until I can pivot into that passion project that I can now make a full-time job.
Yeah, that's some very good advice, because we all have different unfair advantages, and it's not because anyone's better than anyone else. It's just the situation, and you being out. I mean, I live at home at the moment as well. I have different bills and things and whatnot, but everyone's circumstance is different, and you got to find your unfair advantage and milk that situation. But I think the advice here is that you've just said, Matt, is very important around if you don't have those luxuries of, you can just live at home or, not have to pay rent and things like that, then yeah, you need to chip away at it and start to put those things in place. It's once again comes back to that, building an investment portfolio analogy is, every dollar that you're putting in now in 5 years time could potentially be worth $5. And that building of compound and that, just after and up, just keeping at it, because there will come a time when it's like, okay, now it makes sense. And then you can take that jump and it's in the same situation. So no,
the more you've got that full-time job, the more you've got that income confirmed and to be able to live your life, and then you add in this side hustle that you ultimately want long-term to be a full-time job. Like if I really wanted to do it properly, I would have just grinded away part-time and just done this as a weekend side hustle, grew it over time, and I'm talking years to get it to a point where I could naturally just pivot out, and I would never have had to move in back with my parents. And it would have just been and not that that's an issue, because I've absolutely loved being back here. I'm not trying to say that, but it's more a case of that's the way I would do it if I had a full-time job and I wanted to get into it. I wouldn't just cut it dry, quit my job like I've done and just start something from $0. I think there's a real natural progression of time to slowly develop and learn and be in a better position to move out and do it full-time from there.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's just quickly, and I mean, I know this next question could probably be, we could probably do a whole episode on it, but maybe in a really quick highlight, what does a day in the life even look like for you? I know a lot of this, what you do, and you've got plenty of YouTube videos on it, but for those listening, coming in clean, what's a day in the life look like for you?
It's fun. Yeah, you should come to the Gold Coast and do a day with me. That'd be a really cool YouTube video. You and I would get along really well, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm keen for it. Let's make it happen sometime.
We'd go for a run in the morning and grab a coffee and then get into the op shops and list it all up back at home. It'd make for a very, very good video. But mate, I like to start my day out doing something in the morning that doesn't involve what I have to do for the rest of the day. I think that, not everyone's a morning person. I definitely am. I just like to start my day earlier. I'll get up around 5:30. I generally have gone to the gym in the past. I know you and I have spoken a little bit about my running and the fact that I've got some really dodgy knees at the moment. So I'm not really running as much. I used to do half marathons, but right now I'm only doing a couple of Ks a couple of times a week. It's pretty limited. And I love surfing. I'm here on the Gold Coast, so why not get out in the water? I just got out in the water this morning with a couple of mates and had a coffee with them by 7:30, I think it was. And I'm feeling really good and energized to jump into the day, do a podcast with you, and then go and list a bunch of items for eBay that I bought yesterday. So a day in the life for me is always something for myself first thing. And I know that you're the same with your running. And then it's jumping into actually a routine, to be honest with you. It's funny, you step out of a 9-to-5 job, you do something for yourself, and you kind of feel like you then fall back into the process of needing that structure and routine of your old 9-to-5 job. It's the only way I feel like I can get the job done. So I could pretty much tell you, while I am on my own terms here, I could tell you where I am every single minute throughout the week. A Thursday, I'm doing my video of a trip to the thrift, and that's pretty much my entire day. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I know that I'm doing post in the afternoon and getting it out before they close. And I know that I'm listing every single day for 2 hours. That's generally the way I do that. I source 3 to 4 times a week on certain days. It's not in my diary and alerts are popping up on my phone as a meeting that I have to go to, but it just naturally happens that way because you've got to get the job done, and the rhythm and the flow of what you're doing just means that you find yourself in the same place each and every week. But if things needed to change and I needed to go do something different with what I'm doing right now, I could do that. And that's where the flexibility aspect comes into it that I really love about what we get to do. So yeah, day in the life, always on. I finish up at the end of my day. What I need to do actually is finish at 5 or 6 o'clock. That's what I need to do. Because like I said
Good
before,
luck.
it's all here. Yeah, bro. Honestly, it's all here. I'm in my spare bedroom. I don't know if you guys, because I know there's video here. There's a door right there. My bedroom is on the other side of that door. So when I wake up in the morning, it's there. And at nighttime, before I go to bed, it's there. So I really need to make sure that I'm closing the door at 5, 6 o'clock. That's the end of my work day. Just enjoy your evening and don't be sort of trapped to your job, which is definitely what I have been. So a day in the life, that's sort of the way it looks.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And what I love is it kind of comes out as it's almost modular because you have these systems, processes, routines in place. If something has to change, or you can do that 2 hour listing a little later, or you can do
Yeah.
the mail run earlier if you have to, or it means that you
Yep.
have that flexibility and that which we don't have that luxury when you're doing a 9 to 5 because you are following everyone else's timetable or following instructions where now you're setting and driving the day and what that looks like. And I think that was very key how you said that routine and structure. It makes sense because as you continue to scale, having a process that will work for one thing that will then work for when you're scaling at 100x or 10x, that's going to be key because you won't have to change anything, but it will still work. And I think you've got a good example of that because what you were doing in month one versus what you're doing now. Obviously, you've adapted and changed, and you've improved those processes, but it's starting to show and pay off that the structures you've put in place is obviously starting to pay those dividends.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think that was a really key point there. It's putting the structures in place for the future when you sort of 10x yourself. If you've got the right rhythm and flow in place that can scale, then that's a better position to be in. No doubt there will be some staff that comes into it. There'll be some casual people that come in that I'll pay a per item listing rate to, or whatever the case may be, just to give me some further assistance a little bit further down the line. I'm not at that position just yet, but if I'm building these systems and processes in place now while things are manageable, when I bring in these extra people to give me a hand later on, I don't need to adapt or change too much because everything's sort of flowing, from the get-go right from the very beginning. So yeah, that's it. I just love the flexibility of being able to make it how you wish it to be, even though you're still got to get the job done.
Yeah, and do I mean there's so much I would love to tap in for my own personal interest here, and I and that aside, but I think if people do have deeper questions around processes or things, or just curious of what it even looks like, is jump over to his YouTube channel and check it out because you've done some really good videos of day in the life and routines and things, and I think that will help put things into perspective and just being mindful of time. So I mean, you've kind of already maybe answered this across, all the chat that we've had, but what's your current goals at the moment, whether it's just in general or, for the focus for 2021, or what's your priorities? And it can be around the business, it can be around the well-being, or, you've mentioned around financial goals as well. So, if there was 3 or 4 things that you're trying to really focus on or achieve, what are they at the moment?
Move out of home. That's the goal. I'd love to just be able to find a place. Look, property prices on the Gold Coast are horrendous. For anybody that doesn't know, it is just with the virus. Melbourne and Sydney, all you guys down there are trying to come up here and live on the Gold Coast. So I'm actually in a very fortunate position to not be paying exorbitant amount of rent because that's the scenario here on the Gold Coast at the moment. Let alone trying to actually buy a place where the market's gone up about 30%. So it's really tricky property at the moment here on the Gold Coast. So I am very fortunate to be in the position I'm in. Having said that, I do need to get on with my life and move out of home. So that's a real priority for me for probably for end of financial year. I'd like to say July. I'll hopefully be out of home. And look, I've mentioned it already on this podcast, but just documenting that journey of 50,000 a year in an earned salary is something that I just want to continue to tick on for the next couple of months to be really kind of confident in being able to move out of home. And then, yeah, personally, I'd really like to just get back into my running a little bit more, just rehab my knees. Because running and you know it better than anyone, it's a real passion, the running side of things. Like the way I feel after a run and the runner's high that you experience, people have said, well, why don't you cycle, or why don't you swim, or, go to the gym and lift weights? And it's really not the same.
It's not the same.
And you're not going to capture that anywhere else. The runner's high is the runner's high. And, if I've got to run with bad knees just to get that feeling, I'm going to do it, because I just absolutely love it. So if I get to a position and rehab my knees over the next 6 months to be actually in a position where I can get back to I was doing about 30 to 50 kilometers a week. It was some serious sort of volume of running back when I was really giving it a go. So I really want to get back into that, and I really want to continue to surf. And like I've touched on before, find the balance of getting away from just, okay, you've had 9 to 12 months of building a business. Let's get into the personal life a little bit more and actually have a bit of a balance, because right now there's no balance. And I know that. I'm conscious of that. So it's going to be to sort of spend a bit more time hanging out with mates and getting out of my head on the reselling front, spend a bit less time sifting through YouTube analytics, and really just kind of have a bit more balance, because lifestyle's a very important thing. And I've probably fallen away from that over the last few months.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good that you've got that self-awareness, because coming back to even around building processes and systems, that's part of it. Because if you don't build that into the process and system of you building your business now, you're going to get 2 years, 3 years down the line, and yeah, maybe let's say you're doing 300K revenue in a year, but you don't have a life. You'll still be single. You you might have a nice house, but
100%.
it's definitely something which I think
That's exactly why we're doing this, though, right? We're trying to do this to have a really good lifestyle. And you've got to kind of remember that as well. As much as you want to go really fast to scale, you've also got to keep the balance. And I'm the first to put my hand up to say that I've not done that. And your point's so true. You've really got to make sure you're doing that now, so that when you do have it at a point where it's, really flying, you've still got the balance of the lifestyle. So I've got to change things and put those things into practice sooner rather than later, for sure.
And this is easier said than done. It is very hard to do, especially just not whether you're building your own business, but even when you're working just in normal, like the 9 to 5, because there is this mentality of go, 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 or get, or if you don't put in the hours, you're not going to get your pay, and that's just the way, I guess, the world's been brought up, right? So it is really unhealthy. And I think for me, the difference for me doing all this stuff and taking a chance is I'm working a lot, but I'm not stressed. But it was about 2 weeks ago, I realized I was extra tired, and I was trying to figure out, why am I so tired? Because usually I would be tired when I'm stressed, but I don't have the stress. So it was harder for me to realize. And then I realized I'm just doing so much. And,
you're doing everything.
So, I took some days and I started to, and one of the goals I have for this year is to play more video games, because it pulls me away. And doing that, just making sure I'm trying to plug that in, is because I want to continue to scale. I want to continue to grow, because I want to make everything, work and be right. But the thing is, if I'm going to go bust my guts for this entire day, is it really going to get me that extra 100% gain? Probably not, right? So I think really evening it out, because if I achieve some amazing results like you have in 9 months over a year, then I've got nothing to be ashamed of. And if it means that I'm, just taking my time getting there, then that's what's important, because there's no point getting to the top of the cliff and you're exhausted and you can't work your way down or enjoy the view, right? And I think that's super important. And I'm going to keep you honest with it. And I know we've chatted about this a fair bit, but for those listening, I think it's super important is to find those balance areas, whether it is, loved ones, family, relationships, or all the, the healthy habits around running or sports or exercise, but, do the things that you love, but also, have that balance with the passion projects or the work life as well. So super important.
It's okay. It's okay to take time off. That's probably one. Like, it's like you can't sometimes feel a bit guilty, right? Like you're like, oh, I've got this opportunity to take a few hours off, and I'm going to do it. But that's actually okay. Like, that's really healthy. You'll actually be more productive when you go back into work, because you've had the time to take off. So I think the guilt aspect of that probably needs to be removed, and it should be kind of, at least for me anyway, because I do feel a bit guilty when I take time off.
I agree, 100%. Yeah. It's really unhealthy, and I think it's important to have the conversation more and more. And once again, people aren't necessarily seeing everything, and we're talking about it, but I know majority of people that are probably listening to this in one way or another, they feel guilty when they're, when they should be doing something else, they're not taking the time out. But you are just as important because you are the one doing everything that you're doing. So if you're not a well-oiled machine, you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
achieve that, even if it is just looking after your family, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're not looking after yourself, how can you look after others? And it's
100%.
it is a hard thing to achieve. I get it.
Yeah, I know yeah, it is crazy how much you're doing. Like I said before, your efficiencies are just, to get everything done that you do is pretty full on. I don't know how you've got time for video games.
It's it's a struggle, but less on me. And thank you for that, mate. All right, so I mean, being anxious of time. Look, we've touched on so much so far, and it's like I said, there's so much that I would love to chat about more. But I want to jump into a little quick segment of rapid fire questions, and you can answer with a deep answer, or you can just go boom, 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 however you like. And
We'll go quick.
Okay, the first one: favorite book you have read?
The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho.
Oh, it's really good. I love that. I did that on my last
Yeah,
marathon. It's
I
good.
know.
It's so
You
good.
listened to it while you were running. I
Yeah.
know.
Okay,
It's my
that's good.
favorite book.
Oh,
Changed my life.
oh, wow. There you go. People, listen to that or read that.
Yeah.
Next one is, what is your biggest fear?
Biggest fear. Oh, geez, that's really good. Biggest fear would be heights for sure. If we want to play on something simple, heights are I'm absolutely petrified. I'm 6 foot tall. 6'5", I should say. So I shouldn't be afraid of heights at 6'5" because I'm walking around up in the clouds as it is. But when you get me close to a mountain cliff or something like that, I'm no good. Put me in a plane, I'm no good.
That's wow. Okay. I didn't, that's fair enough. I mean, we all have fears. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's a
just
big
funny
one.
with the way how you explain, because you are very tall. I'm short, so it's yeah, okay, fair enough. The next one is, it's 5 years from now. What does the
Yeah.
Aussie flipper look like?
Yeah, big YouTube channel. Everyone like and subscribe because that thing's going to go off in 5 years'
It
time.
is, it's
Um,
flying.
yeah, it's going off. No, look, I'll be on YouTube for sure because I just love doing that. I'll be putting out a heap of videos. I'll be still reselling. How the reselling side of things actually looks, I'm not 100% sure. Like, do I see myself with a big warehouse? Probably not. Maybe just a little storage shed and keeping things pretty minimal, keeping it around the 100, 120,000. I don't really have so much goal in the sense of going really extreme from a volume sense of reselling. But I really want the YouTube channel to take off because I'm loving the aspect of trying to help others earn a couple of extra dollars. Like that side of things is massive for me, and the impact and influence that you can have with a channel like YouTube. I just really want to attack that over the next 5 years. It takes a long time to grow on the channel. I know you've had a YouTube channel for quite some time. You get it. So that's where I'm going to be putting a lot of my time and effort over the next few years. And I really do hope that there's enough volume there to be helping, thousands of people on a daily, weekly basis.
Yeah, and I think that reach is going to be bigger, and its reward will be, it will be tenfold, right? Because
And
yeah,
it already is. The reward's already there. You get these messages from people that say, you've been able to help me make an extra $20, $50 with me being able to now sell that item that I didn't know I could. And that's, I've only been around on YouTube for 7 months, and the impact that I've had on the few people that I've been able to reach out to, I've just found so much joy in being able to do that I want to just do more and more to more people. And I also love the process of the behind the scenes of editing videos and talking on camera and presenting and all that sort of thing. So 5 years time, man, I've only just gotten into this game. So I'm just going to keep plugging away at it and see where it ends up.
yeah, that's right. There's no right or wrong answer for that. So I think
Yeah.
it's a great one. The next one is, if you had to list 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses, and if you can't answer all 3, maybe just, we can go a couple of each. What would they be? So 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses.
3 strengths would be, one is I'm incredibly honest. I think my YouTube channel shows that. I'm pretty adamant about a good week or a bad week when I show sales figures. So my transparency and honesty for sure. Time efficiency, I think I'm pretty good. I think being a one-man band, doing what I'm doing, it's allowed me to really realize that I'm pretty efficient with my time. I can get a lot done. And probably the other one would just be really hardworking. I don't sort of slacken off and give things up. I kind of put every single bit of effort that I can into it. Weaknesses. Probably a little bit. I reckon I can, with a weakness, I could be a little bit self-absorbed in the sense of just being in my own head a bit too much with what I've got going on, rather than actually stepping back and looking at, how does that affect other people and, my friends and my family. I'm putting all this time and focus into myself, but are you just being a little bit self-indulgent? And should you kind of step back and focus on others? I'm because I'm running around a lot. I'm always late. I'd say that is a weakness of me. I'm glad that I got to this podcast at 10 a.m. because there was every chance that I might not have. So that would probably be a weakness. I've got to improve that. And then the third one, for a bit of fun, I hit the snooze button way too much. That's a weakness. I've got a process with the snooze button. I hit it twice. And if I hit it 3 times, then that's an issue. And the amount of times that I'm close to that third snooze button, it's a growing concern for me. So I don't think I've probably got the right approach for getting out of bed.
Well, no, thank you for sharing that. It's really good that you've been able to share both the strengths and weaknesses. And that last one, I think, as you always say, you need to know your numbers and your data points. That is definitely telling you that you're doing too much because you're not excited.
Yeah, no.
Not that you're not excited to get up, but you're obviously tired, right? And
How many hours sleep do you have a night?
So I'm in bed at 11 and up at 6:30. So what? That's
Up at
8.
6:30. So you're 7.5.
Yeah.
I'm the same, 7.5.
Yeah.
And I'm probably because I like I said before, I'm up a little bit earlier, so I'm probably asleep at around 10, and then I'm up at about 5:30. But at 5:30, at 7.5, I feel like I really optimally need about 8 hours sleep. And I reckon I'm trying to get into the gym at about 6 o'clock. So that snooze button every 5 minutes, I've just got to. There's got to be a better way to get out of bed. That snooze button shouldn't even be something on your phone, to be honest with you.
I think, well, yeah, so like I totally get that, and because you are doing so much, you're going to be drained. But I think with that in as well, I think for me, what I'm looking forward to is now that the sun's coming up earlier. I love
Yeah.
when it's dark. I hate it because I don't have that morning groove, right? But when it's light, getting out for that sunrise run, or if you're going out, if you're going out for a surf and it's at the sunrise, that's magical, right? And those are the things that get me bouncing.
Dude.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, winter is a harder time for sure.
All right, the next one then, and you've probably already answered this across the whole thing, is 3 favorite hobbies or things you like to do when you're free time or resting.
Yeah, it's all sort of health and fitness related. It's running for sure. It's absolutely surfing. And then I've got a real personal interest in personal finance. I've got a real interest in the stock market. Something that I adopted last year, which, to be honest, I was relatively inexperienced in the stock market. And part of this whole process of 2020 COVID-19 was, okay, let's self-assess yourself and see what you could do to improve in all areas of your life. And one of that was the investing side of things. So I spent a lot of time last year learning about the stock market and getting into that sort of personal finance and better understanding that side of things. So as much as it was growing a business, it was also sort of looking after my personal finances a little bit better as well. So I've really gotten into it. And actually the guy, I don't know if you follow him at all. His name is Brandon, and he goes by New Money on YouTube. He is an absolute boss. And I thank that man every single day whenever he puts a video out, because he got me into YouTube and showed me the power of YouTube and the power of sort of, passive income and stock market investing. So he's been a real passion and interest for mine, to be honest, as much as sort of the health and fitness as well.
I'm pretty sure I found your channel by going through his comments, trying to grow my own channel in terms of reach. And I saw yours, I clicked on it, loved the videos, and then we started chatting, and it's history from there. But 100%, I remember seeing that coin,
amazing.
that little flick. Yeah, crazy.
That's wild. That is wild. I'm all over his channel, not to try and grow my own channel, because I'm literally like, dude, this guy has helped me so much. He was the one that said, turn the camera on and make a video and talk about what you're interested in. If it wasn't for watching his videos for months on end, I would not be starting a YouTube channel. He's an awesome dude. I'd love to meet him one day.
Yeah, he's great, and the stuff he's been, and he blew up in 2020 as well in terms of scaling his YouTube channel, which it's well deserved because he's hustling. And that's really cool about the personal finance stuff. I might have to chat to you about that because I love doing that as well. And then the final thing for you in terms of a rapid fire question is, what would you tell your late teenage self now, knowing what you know now?
Things take time. Things take a lot of time, and to just relax a little bit. I wouldn't say to do what you want to do, because that's what my 19-year-old teenage self was doing. He's always done that. He's always just gone after and done what he wants to do. But things don't happen as quickly as you think they will. So just slow down, take it easy, stress less, know that what you're doing is the right thing because it's what you want to do, and work really, really hard to get there. Because ultimately, if you work really hard, there's literally nothing stopping you. If you know what you want, and that's, I think, the biggest issue for a lot of people out there, they just actually don't know what they want to do. Once you work that out, all that's stopping you is all the work sort of in between that goal and where you are currently. So stress less, work hard every day, slow progress, you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's some wonderful advice, is because a lot of the time, once again, it's thrown in our faces so much around comparing ourselves to other people's timelines. The person
Yeah.
that, so for instance, I can use you and me as an example. You're doing X amount of dollars every month, on track to do $100,000 in revenue or 50 grand as a salary, and you're 9 months in. I'm 3 months in, and I'm probably profiting around $1,300 a month. So nowhere near your numbers yet, but the reality is I haven't done nowhere near as much time as you have either. So I can't, compare, fairly, to say that, oh, I'm not doing enough, because I don't have the time behind me. I don't have the wisdom behind me. I don't have that understanding. And, we're all doing different things. So I think that's very
Yeah.
important for anyone listening, whatever you're doing in life, whether it's you going through university, whether you're studying, whether you're working, or whatever it is, even in sports, is don't get so fixated on other people and what they're achieving, especially if they're not a direct peer, because you're only going to do yourself some hard work even more, because you're going to be looking and comparing, and it's just not worth it, really isn't. And I know
I
it's
try
easy.
not to compare. I try not to compare. I don't really, I don't focus on anyone but what I want to do. And $100,000 for me was just my goal. It wasn't because somebody else had done it and I wanted to do it because they did. I just put that as my number, and I kind of have a single lens focus on attacking it. So when I come to achieving that goal, if it takes me 12, 18, 24 months, whatever the case is, that was my timeline. And if it took somebody longer or less, who cares? That was their journey. Everyone's on a different journey. Everyone's tracking on a different process. But as long as you're enjoying the process, that's the biggest thing. So don't, yeah, my advice would be to not really track and get encouragement and motivation from other people, no doubt about it. That's a really strong part. But never get discouraged, because you don't know what world they're operating out of, and it could be, and most likely is very different to yours.
100%. Well said, mate. Well, I mean, so we've covered so much in this episode, and I just want to say a big thank you so far. But we've touched on, taking a chance on yourself, and stepping away from the comforts that you thought was everything that you loved and want to be doing for the rest of your life, and then you've stepped into something
Yeah.
which now is that new passion and things that you love even more. And I think that's been really the key theme of this episode, is taking a chance on yourself, but also taking the time and having a lot of patience, which we've just touched on. And I really do appreciate you sharing so much. You've been very open and authentic around the numbers. You've been authentic around what it's like, and the struggles and the realities of it. So I do appreciate that. The one thing I want to give you the chance now is, if there was one thing that you wanted to leave with the listeners or audience, or that there's one thing that they take away, what would that be?
To absolutely give something a go that you've been thinking about doing in the back of your mind for the last few months, last few years, maybe your entire life. You've just thought about giving something a go. I'm not giving you the blueprint on how you go about giving it a go, because I think that's completely different for everybody. But just to literally say at the end of your time that I gave a go what I wanted to do. And, it might not work out for you. It may work out for you, but I think it's better to not live without regret. I know Gary Vee talks about it a lot. I'm a huge fan of Gary Vee. It's that whole no regrets philosophy. So I'm really happy that I've given this a go for the last 9 months and taken a chance on me for 9 months. Whether it ends up being a complete success or I find myself back working for the Gold Coast Suns, there will be no regret in saying that I gave it a go for 12 months. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for anybody listening out there. It's all about lifestyle hustles. That's what you talk about on this podcast. That's why people listen to this podcast. And I think people are always just looking for that one comment, that one sentence that can push them over the edge to actually put things into action. And hopefully this chat today can be that little piece of that nugget of information that you like to talk about. I know you love to use the term nugget. That can be hopefully the nugget of information that gets somebody over the line to give what they want to go.
That's perfect. And now, folks, you just got to go do it. All right, Matt. So how do people get in touch with you, or where's the best way to follow along? Obviously, I'll put all this in the show notes, but, for a chance for you to, you can talk about your new online store. You can talk about your YouTube. What's the best way to find you, or what you want to share?
Yeah, Instagram is where I'm pretty much accessible to have a chat. And I'm seriously open. I respond to pretty much every single DM. So send me a message on Instagram. It's just at the Aussie Flipper. My name's Matt, as we know, and then obviously on YouTube as well, the Aussie Flipper. Jump on and watch a few videos. If you want to get into a part-time side hustle of flipping, I can always help you guys out on Instagram through messages, or even leaving a comment on a YouTube channel as well. I'll always respond. Love meeting new people. Love helping people. So it'd be awesome to connect with you guys.
Perfect. Thanks so much, mate. It's been an absolute honor having you on here. And I mean, we've chatted so many times, but to be able to have you here and, do it in a different perspective to a broader audience, I think it's, it's super exciting. And I mean, when I first met you, in terms of following your content, I was a bit of a fanboy, right? So still am. And to have you on the podcast and supporting it is a great big thank you to you. So really do appreciate you being here.
Oh, mate, I'm equally as much of a fanboy to you as you are to me. That's for sure. I'm loving what you're doing, to be able to be in what is a pretty early podcast. I think I'm one of the first few guests, which is even more special. Absolutely love your work and do appreciate you getting me on, mate. It's been a lot of fun.
Too easy. Thanks very much, mate. And until next time. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Well, there we go, folks. What an episode. And I just kind of want to quickly call out a quick a highlight for me and a key takeaway. The thing that I love about Matt, and I mentioned it at the start, is his ability to execute and take action and put in the hard work. And at the end of the day, that's what it does come down to. No matter whatever you're doing, whether it's you're trying to get fit, whether you're running, whether you're building a business, or you're just trying to, learn a new skill, if you put in the discipline, if you put in the time, if you put in the work and understand what you're trying to achieve, the results will come. And the only person really stopping you is yourself. Of course, there's going to be barriers and things we have to work around and navigate, but it's all about moving forwards and finding your way and taking control and taking a chance on yourself, right? And we've touched on so much in this episode, and I hope there's something here which you are able to take away. I know I've learned so much, and he is a good mate and we're always chatting, so I'm always learning from Matt. But if there is something else that you would like to know, do reach out to Matt and check out his socials, check out his YouTube channel, because he's got lots to share, and he's an open book. He's not here to hide, he's here to share and help other people do something of a similar nature, and there's plenty of room for people in that community. So lots of tips and tricks. Really do appreciate you being here. I mean, this has been an awesome episode. I've learned a lot. I hope you've learned a lot. But most of all, if you do like this episode, if you think this is something of value, something that maybe someone else could learn something from, I would appreciate it if you can share it, maybe send a small snippet, or, just, share it around to your friends, family, whoever it may be, if it makes sense to, right? Of course, if you did enjoy that, you can leave a comment on the YouTube version, or you can reach out on the socials and let me know what you thought about the podcast episode as well. My name's Chris Furlong. I am the host of this podcast, and I really do appreciate you being here. It's been an absolute pleasure being able to have the conversation with you, but also with Matt, and being able to bring that opportunity to you as well. So, really do appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.